And I think that because we're here in God's providence, we're not here by mistake or accident or contingency. Those things don't really exist. We have a purpose here. You and I, my listener, have a purpose here. And so we need to affect change for the better. And I would say we need to affect a godly change, which of course means for the better by definition here. And we need to concern ourselves with facts and issues and news and personalities and details and struggles and complexities here, not what's happening in Washington or Manhattan or Caracas or Brussels or any other place. What matters here is what we can affect for the better. And so I'm arguing that you should be lococentric. And so the theme is local economy, free market. And I say local economy because that lets me cover everything redundantly if I need to, or as broadly as I need to. And the slogan of our show here in Chattanooga is love your neighbor and buy local. Near is better than far, small than big, and simple than complex. And in the footnotes, which of course, as you know, the footnotes are in 5-point type. So if you, my listener, have that single gray eyebrow hair that needs to be plucked, your wife has mentioned that to you, and she wants to help you out. You need to get those glasses on and read in 5-point type the details, the supporting arguments, the additional axioms, and those are that personal is better than corporate and physical than abstract. Those are the 5 nostrums, if you will, of local economy that we argue here at Nuganomics and at yournews.com. And what we want is a more humane economy. We want a more civil economy, and we want an end of one end that we want is the end of the state's war against the people. Yeah. And that is a marketplace hope, and it's a hope in the gospel that power will be reduced across society. There'll be less power play, less verticality in society, and more horizontality. And the idea of horizontality, of course, that's the picture there. I'd say that's the fruit of the gospel. But the picture there is that you have more people who have relationships among equals, and fewer relationships that are up to down. In other words, there's less pyramidical type structure in society and in the economy, and more horizontality. So we're working for horizontality versus verticality. What we have in the post-World War II national economy is verticality. We have the surveillance state, the warfare state, the total tax state, the state that does no wrong, the secret state, and the progressive corporate state, all working to serve the elites, and all working to bring you and me, my listener, into a kind of subjugation, which we're supposed to appreciate. Right, we're supposed to appreciate this subjugation to these interests, and to be kept asleep by the anodynous, drolling drumming of the press, and the press is not doing its job, and we're all falling asleep and all ignorant about the true state of affairs. So here in Chattanooga, to get on with it, David, we want to look at 2 arrests: the arrests of Avery Gray, daughter, on the 25th of June, and then the arrest a couple days ago, Saturday, of Diana Watt. Both happen to be, well, one woman is you might say mixed race, the other one's African American. The arresting party is the state of Tennessee through the agency of Mayor Andy Burke, the mayor, the leader of the executive branch in Tennessee, running the police department. And to help me sort out some of these details, I have a community activist here in the studio. Her name is Marie Mott. She's 30. She's a millennial social activist. She's a kind of a police watchdog, and she identifies herself as a regular citizen. And that's of course who you are. You and I are both regular citizens. And what we want to have from her is her take on these 2 arrests, and then points beyond. And there's the question about the state being a kind of a terror to the people is something you could say is philosophical, but the idea does work down into the details. How is it that Anthony Byrd, our city councilman, can say he's had, when I ask him, 20, 30, 40 encounters with cops over his life? Well, why is that? Well, that's because he's a member of a disfavored race and a suspect race, a race where we white people assume always the worst. We always assume the absolute worst of these people. And so obviously if you're young and black, you must be involved or about to be involved in a crime. So Anthony Byrd, elevated to city council, has this in his past. And so does Demetrius Coonrod, a very remarkable turnaround story there, with many encounters with the law, and truly people who are involved in crimes. But she has found redemption. She's found God's forgiveness, I believe, and also forgiveness by society being elected to city council. So she's made a remarkable turnaround for herself, and there is redemption. It does exist, just like expungement exists for some crimes in Tennessee, and of course God's forgiveness exists. It is a real legal forgiveness. Now, Marie, tell my listener what you tell us about the most recent police arrest story. We have a woman who facing 8 charges, and it's on online video. We have the press, the decentralization of the function of the press, which is the person with the smartphone. That's you. That's the listener. You now remember the press. What's this all about?
This is all about things that have been happening. Thank God for technology, because what is happening is not new, but what is happening is that we have the opportunity now, because of technology, to see what has been going on all across the nation. Police terrorism against citizens, we can't just specify it against Black people, but we see police that often terrorize the poor, the people who just don't have the means to defend themselves, right? The social or economic weak. We see the police who often brutalize and terrorize these individuals because oftentimes they are ignorant. They don't know the extent of the law to be able to protect themselves against officers who often don't even know how to correctly enforce the law. You know, one thing that I want the listener to do is to be objective, which is when you see things like this, don't automatically assume because I am of color, because I'm a Black woman, a Black child, or a Black man, or even because I may look poor, that automatically I am guilty. What I want you to do is to take the situation as it comes. What I saw between the 2 videos that was quite common was the people there asking the police officers questions. Why is this person being arrested? Why am I being detained? You have those rights to question an officer. So this belief that we have adopted as citizens, that we don't have a right to question those who have an oath, who have taken an oath to serve us, to be servants of our communities. You know, when we say that police officers are supposed to protect and serve, that is not talking about a particular group or entity or interest in the community. That's the community as a whole. So just like the officers should have compassion and understanding for the person that lives on Signal Mountain, they should have compassion and understanding for the person who may be panhandling just to get a meal. What we are seeing is that people have utilized a badge as a means of oppression and taking power and asserting it over privatized citizens. And that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. And then to take it a step further, I believe police officers should be peacemakers, not peace breakers. To take women, first of all, let's just say women, to take women by their extremities and drag them out of vehicles. I want you to stop 1 second, close your eyes and think. What if that was your mother? What if that was your grandmother? What if that was your aunt, your cousin, your baby girl? What if that was your niece? What if it was you? And of course, as in particular, as African Americans, when we encounter these situations, we are left helpless, because if it's a situation to where we step in, because that is the natural inclination. I can't imagine that mother who was standing there watching her daughter be assaulted by Chattanooga police departments, that did not want to have that motherly instinct, which is protect my child, protect my baby. That is a natural instinct, right? But we know that if she did anything that would protect her daughter, that would A, get her arrested, or B, that would get her often shot, tasered, or killed. So to be put in these predicaments by, let's say that officers are just not trained as they should be. And often we have people policing areas that have no interest in those areas, that have no ties to those areas, and that certainly do not have any relationship with the people in those areas. I believe that it's up to the sheriff, as well as it is up to Mayor Andy Burke, to step in when we have situations that continue to come to the forefront and not push them aside as we're always going to say that the police was just right. That is wrong. I believe, and you said it earlier, Mayor Burke is a lawyer. He is a lawyer. So he has a double responsibility in my eyes, because he's not just the mayor. He understands the letter of the law, or at least he should. So that means that he has an overwhelming responsibility. When he sees these injustices, the lawyer in him should stand up before the mayor in him, right? And the lawyer in him should have a conversation with the mayor in him to utilize the power that he has to step in and to see what is going on. And we really should have a community situation where the community should be involved in really having a relationship with the police. Why do we not have a community oversight board into police relations with the Chattanooga community? If we talk about being the best looking city in America, what does that mean if we are not the best city in America? And if we claim that we are progressive, tell me why we are not taking progressive measures like that to ensure that there is a solid relationship between authority and private citizen. That is what we need. So if you are listening, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you could please call us at 800-8949, or you can find us on, we are on Nooga Radio 92.7. We are live on Facebook. Give us a call and ask me some questions. Talk to me. I want to know what you think.
Right. This is David Toulis, and we have with us here Marie Mott, and I'd like you to call the number and ask some questions of her. She's been, how many years have you been in Chattanooga, Marie?
All my life.
All her life. She knows the city inside out. She attends city council meetings. She haunts certain parts of the city that touch on, I would guess, moral questions. Now, you're saying, Marie, that policing seem to thrive on having people be fearful of them. Is there can you tell us a bit about perhaps the arrest of Diana Watt? How could that have gone differently? Tell what happened, or maybe describe how that arrest could have gone forth if she had, let's say, a tag out of date or a driver's license that was not good. How would something like that have been handled? Would it have involved that many officers? Would it have taken longer? If there were reform in policing in Chattanooga, what would that encounter have looked like, and would it have gone? You might say, as badly as it did?
Absolutely not. First of all, there is no reason when you are pulling over one individual, there's no reason why we should have 6 or 7 police officers showing up to the scene. Of course, the average citizen is going to be terrified when they look in their rear view and there's 6 or 7 police officers coming to their vehicle. The other thing is that our officers seem to want to just, I don't know, get people off of the street immediately. They don't give people an opportunity, first of all, to ask questions. You have that right. You have a right to ask questions about why a police officer is approaching you, stopping you, or arresting you. Those are your private citizen's rights. And you also have a right as a citizen to not have anybody slam you to the ground because you didn't move in 5 seconds. Absolutely, absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. And I have a question as to why the woman was handcuffed in her own car in the first place.
Well, the daughter said that there were 4 officers in her car. They had without a warrant, they were effectively searching her car, and they were in the back, 2 in the back seat. One, I'm not sure how they were all around and why there were so many, but she said there were 4 in the car getting the mother in the handcuffs. So when the video begins, she's already in the car with her hands tied behind her back, and then she's the counting begins. Step out of the car now, and it's a remarkably humiliating picture in my mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for this woman, she's never going to forget that. Her children are never going to forget that encounter. And are these the encounters that we are trying to give to our citizens on a daily? Our police, look, first of all, if you want to be a police officer, I need you to not be afraid. And I need you to be able to relate to people. If you're not a people person, you don't need to be a police officer, because you have a probability where you may encounter 50 people in a day. So if you're not a people person, you don't need to be an officer. You need to be a paper pusher. But I often see officers who have no patience. They have no patience. They don't want to do any due diligence, any work. They just want to show up, disperse people, or arrest somebody, put somebody in the car, take them downtown. It's never that they're trying to answer questions or really be a servant, which is part of their mantra. They're not trying to be a servant, more or less. They're trying to legitimately use their power to terrorize people, and that's wrong.
This is David Toulis, and the number is 800-8949, 800-8949. We're brought to you by Nuganomics.com, Nuganomics, and also yournews.com. Do go to the Nuganomics website today. That is my platform, the blogger with the biggest pen. And I have another story about the arrest of Diana Watt, looking at some of the charges. And these charges are, at least if one is bogus, then I think we can raise questions about all of them. And the one bogus charge is purely extraneous. It's just, and it seems to me it's a kind of harassment charge, and that's the one called retaliation for past action. And it's very clear in the statute. It's a very redundant and wordy statute that has the same list in it 3 times the list of officials whom it covers, such as police officers and judges. And so it's very wordy and kind of redundant and very kind of woodenly written. But effectively, it says that you can be charged with this if you've had an encounter in the past with an officer or a judge or a clerk or a district attorney or an assistant district attorney, and now you see this person and you're gonna hit that person, you're gonna run into him, or you're going to throw something upon him, or hurl a bottle at him. That would make you subject to this charge, and it's a felony. It's a felony charge against whom they have filed against Diana Watt, and there has to be a past relationship, and it's not. You can't just say, well, it's not threats. I mean, a threat is something else. A threat is under another statute, but here it requires a past relationship. And the daughter says, Jayla Oates says that the mother has not had any kind of encounters with the law. Or anything that would be abusive from her perspective that would give her motive to then go and do some retaliatory act and retaliation for past action. So it's very clear what it's about. And yet there's some reason, I would suppose, where the officers are filing this charge, or maybe not.
Well, my opinion on the matter is this is a tactic that we see quite often, unfortunately. Where we have instances of people who have been legitimately harassed or assaulted by police factions, and then we have a wide variety of trumped up charges. Because first of all, we can often assume that most people who have these interactions with police officers are not well-to-do people. Rarely are they well-to-do people. Where they are the people who have the means to see this through on a judiciary basis. So who legitimately, if the average person is not even making a livable wage in the city of Chattanooga, who has the paper, as we call it in my neighborhood, the paper, to be able to hire a lawyer to see this through? Who can afford that? Who can really afford the emotional turmoil of going through our judicial system with all of these charges, and then being faced with a felony, which has the probability, depending on what it is, to strip you of your right to vote, to keep you from getting a job, to keep you from getting housing and various different things. Buying a weapon to be able to protect yourself in the event of situations like this. So the average person is going to do what they often do, which is take a plea.
They almost always do that.
Almost always cop a plea as a means of just alleviating themselves of the pressure of having to see a situation like this through when they are without a shadow of a doubt innocent.
This is David Toulis, and caller, you're live with Marie Mott. What's on your mind? This is David Toulis, and we do take calls. We are at 800-8949, 800-8949. And what is on your mind, caller? Well, David Toulis here. We are at 92.7 FM, live on Facebook at Nuga Radio, and also live on YouTube, Nuga Radio. And if you have a smartphone, we are there. Get the TuneIn Radio app. It's free. And just select 92.7 or Nuga Radio. You report, and the world decides. There is in the rise of the internet, there's a decentralization of many functions, and I'd like to suggest that we have more liberty ahead in many ways. One is the decentralization of the function of the press. That's me. And Andy Burke says, I'm not a member of the media. No matter what I tell you, he's not a member of the media, and blockaded against my reporting on his administration. But we are a member of the press, and if you have a smartphone, you are an ally of our press platform. You are our censors, and we're counting on you to make a record, as Jayla Oates did of Promoter's Arrest. We are counting on you to make the record. Next, we're going to talk about the panhandling ordinance and what that means, and more about fear of police in the city. It's intended.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
The body of a 24-year-old Virginia man was recovered Saturday night in Tennessee. Hector Perez was last seen alive on a pond.